What if a gift turned into a life-changing secret? A gift arrived for Andrew upon his graduation from college, and from his law course, a woman greeted him fast asleep in his bed. Heat surged through Andrew's entire body, and without hesitation, he fully accepted the offering from his sister. When Andrew woke up, the woman was gone. The only thing left was a crimson stain on the bedsheet. Years passed until one day he crossed paths again with the woman he had once claimed. Tears in her eyes, she revealed her purpose. They had a child, and that child needed his blood. Can you imagine the shock of discovering a hidden family? Over 30 years, Andrew never took women seriously. When Alyssa left, she took his heart with her, and so Andrew did everything he could to bring the three of them together. But would he succeed in winning back the woman he loved and their child? Are you really sure about that decision, Alyssa? Kelly asked, worry etched in her voice. She and Alyssa were currently walking home from the flower shop where they worked. They chose to walk because they each had only a single dollar left in their pockets. At least this way I can do something, Alyssa said, exhaling shakily. I'm ready to surrender my virtue if it means I can be with Mom for a long time. Kelly's breath caught. Aren't you scared? The deal is you're going to be at the beck and call of some Andrew Johnson guy. Think this through carefully, Alyssa. We can find some way to pay for Olivia's operation. Kelly still tried to talk Alyssa out of agreeing to the offer from their boss, Olivia, who owned the flower shop where they both worked. My mind's made up, Kelly, Alyssa responded, firm but trembling. It's so hard for us to earn even a few dollars. How much more the $500,000 Olivia is offering me? It's more than enough money. Once I do what she wants, Mom will be healed, and I can even start a small business. So please, just support me in this plan of mine, Kelly. I can't bear seeing Mom suffer anymore. My pride means nothing if I lose the only parent I have left. I hope you understand why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for her. Kelly's face clouded with sadness. I feel so sorry for you, Alyssa. If only I were rich, I'd lend you the money. If I were wealthy, you wouldn't have to get yourself into a situation like this. Kelly sighed heavily, and Alyssa tried to force a laugh. We're so dramatic, Alyssa said, trying to mask the heaviness in her heart. They finally arrived at Alyssa's house. We're here. Well, bye. I'll just wait for you tomorrow, okay? We should come in early because we'll be walking again, Kelly teased. Alyssa nodded and watched her friend walk away. Kelly lived in another neighborhood. Alyssa sighed as she entered the simple house. She was alone because her mother was in the hospital. Just a little more, Mom, she whispered, preparing herself some dinner. I'll be able to pay for your operation. Your strength and spirit will return. Alyssa couldn't visit her mother at the hospital yet because, aside from having no money left, she knew the hospital would demand payment on her mother's bill. Her mother, Margaret, had breast cancer. Olivia would only give her the promised money the next afternoon, which meant Alyssa wouldn't be able to go to the hospital until late that night. Still, Alyssa felt relieved, knowing she'd asked a nurse acquaintance, formerly a classmate, to watch over her mother. If we weren't struggling, Al murmured as she sank onto a bamboo chair outside their house after eating. I might have become a full-fledged nurse myself, caring for the sick, helping them get better. The thought made her exhale a long sigh. A few more minutes passed before she decided to rest her tired mind and body. Long before sunrise, Alyssa was awake, preparing the things she'd need to bring to the hospital that night. She waited an hour for Kelly to arrive. She had already eaten breakfast by the time her friend turned up around 5. Alyssa locked up the house, and they headed off, walking a considerable distance. Maybe if we walk to the shop every day, I'll get as slim as you are, Kelly joked. When they were near the flower shop, Alyssa let out a light laugh. But the question is, will you last? Kelly pouted at the joke. Of course I will, she said with confidence. Okay, if you say so, Alyssa grinned. They said nothing more as they reached the entrance of the shop exactly at 7. Good morning, Miss Olivia, they greeted in unison. Good morning, too, replied their attractive and fashionable boss. Have you had breakfast? Her voice was soft, affectionate. Kelly shook her head. I was in such a rush, I forgot to eat, she admitted. Same here. I haven't had breakfast either. Kelly, could you do me a favor and grab some takeout from the nearby diner? Olivia asked sweetly. Oh, sure, Olivia, Kelly agreed quickly. Olivia handed Kelly $3,000. Once Kelly stepped out, Olivia approached Alyssa. She was desperate to know whether her younger brother truly preferred men, given he'd already graduated, passed the bar exam, and yet introduced no girlfriend to their family. Miss Olivia and their mother were starting to wonder. Are you ready for what we're going to do tomorrow, Alyssa? Olivia asked. Alyssa set aside the bouquet she was arranging and faced her boss. Yes, ma'am. There's no backing out, she said resolutely. A delighted smile curved Miss Olivia's lips. She rummaged in her stylish handbag and took out the money she'd promised. Alyssa gasped at the thick wad of bills Olivia placed in her hand. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized it was enough to pay the hospital bills. I made it $1 million because I know you really need the money for your mother's illness, Olivia explained. Forgive me if I have to use you, Alyssa. My mother and I are truly desperate to confirm whether Andrew is into women or not. It would be such a waste if the bloodline of the Johnsons is cut short. If it turns out we're right and he doesn't actually like women, Alyssa shook her head quickly. You have nothing to apologize for, Olivia, because more than anything, I approached you. I owe you so much. Mom, I'll be grateful my entire life for what you've done. Tears threatened to spill again, but she smiled through them. Olivia nodded. She offered her hand, and Alyssa accepted it at once. I hope our plan works for my mother's sake and mine. I'm sorry in advance, Miss Olivia said. Alyssa simply nodded. Kelly returned with the food, carrying several bags. They ate together, sharing the takeout Olivia had requested, then got busy assisting the influx of customers. The shop was always swamped on Valentine's Day, so they had no time to rest and had to do 2 hours of overtime. Exhausted, they finally finished their shifts. As they said goodbye to Olivia, Alyssa decided not to walk home this time. It was already late, and she was in a rush. Kelly also went her own way, catching a packed taxi because she had siblings to look after. Alyssa watched her friend leave, then went inside her house. She quickly ate dinner and took a shower, then hurried to the hospital. As she walked down the long corridor, she bumped into Nurse Vivian, the person she'd asked to watch over her mother. Good evening, Nurse Vivian Guerrero, Alyssa greeted. How's Mom? Vivian's face turned grave. I can't say she's in good condition. I don't want to alarm you, Alyssa, but your mother's situation isn't improving. She really needs an operation, the nurse said honestly. Fear tore at Alyssa's chest. She inhaled slowly and nodded. Vivian placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. I'll tell the doctor so the operating room can be prepared. Go ahead and see your mother. She's been asking for you. Give her courage, Alyssa, she advised. Alyssa nodded again. She rushed to the room where her mother lay. Tears nearly escaped when she saw how frail her mother looked, bones showing where she had once been robust. Mom, she said softly. The weak woman lifted her gaze, a pained smile touching her lips despite her suffering. Alyssa, my child, her mother murmured, her voice cracking. Alyssa took her mother's hand and pressed it repeatedly to her lips. You're going to have surgery now, Mom. Olivia lent me the money, so you're going to get better, okay? Alyssa's voice shook, tears threatening to fall. I love you so much. A faint smile flickered over the older woman's face. She tried to wipe away her daughter's tears, then the doctor arrived with his team to wheel her into surgery. Alyssa hurried to the hospital chapel to pray. Afterward, she fully settled the hospital bill, then waited for hours in the corridor for any word from the operating room. Around dawn, the surgeon's assistant emerged to inform Alyssa that the operation had been successful. Her mother had been transferred to the ICU but was stable. Relief washed over Alyssa as though a giant thorn had been pulled from her chest. She uttered a silent prayer of thanks. Alyssa was allowed a brief visit in the ICU. She approached the bed, tears glistening. Mom, hurry and get better so we can start that laundry shop you always dreamed of. For now, I have to leave because Olivia and I have an arrangement. Once I fulfill our agreement, we can get out of here. We'll return to the place we came from, just like you wanted, and we'll open Margaret's laundry shop. She wiped a single tear that slipped down her cheek, then silently observed her mother's sleeping face for a few moments. Finally, she left the room and sought out Vivian, pressing a small amount of money into her hands as a gesture of gratitude. Vivian refused. "It's my duty to help," she said. "Thank you so much, Vivian," Alyssa said, hugging her friend. "Without you, I would have had to quit work to look after Mom." Vivian returned the hug, smiling. "It's no trouble." Alyssa. Then another nurse called for Vivian's help, and Alyssa took the chance to leave. She returned home, took another shower, and quickly packed her things. Soon, the ride that Olivia had arranged arrived. They left for a high-rise apartment building in the city. Alyssa followed Miss Olivia through the lobby and elevator until they stopped at a particular door. "Come in, Alyssa. Andrew is going to be late, so go take a shower. After that, put on whatever's inside this paper bag," Olivia said, holding it up. Inside was the lingerie Alyssa was expected to wear. Alyssa quietly followed orders, walking into the lavish bathroom and removing her clothes. She turned on the warm shower, closed her eyes, and prayed silently that everything would go smoothly when she finally met the man she was supposed to offer herself to. Once she finished showering, she dried her hair, wrapped a towel around her body, and left the bathroom. Olivia was gone, but she had left a sticky note on the bedside table explaining that she had to leave to inform her brother about the gift she'd prepared. Alyssa's stomach tightened. "You can do this, Alyssa," she told herself, breathing in deeply. Then she opened the paper bag. She grimaced when she saw the sheer material inside. Another deep breath, and she forced herself to slip it on. She brushed her hair, then lay down on Andrew's large, clean-scented bed. Nervousness coiled around her, and she found herself waiting anxiously for the door to open. But more than an hour passed, and no one entered. Exhaustion overcame her. She hadn't slept properly in days, so her eyes grew heavy until she finally drifted into slumber. Meanwhile, Andrew sat frowning in his office as he listened to his sister on the phone. "I really don't need a gift, Olivia. I can buy whatever I need," he insisted. His sister huffed, hands on her hips. "This is my first time giving you a present as your older sister, Andrew, so be thankful." "Don't complain," she scolded him. Andrew gave a slight shrug of surrender, stood from his swivel chair, and straightened his suit. "Fine, fine. So where is this gift of yours?" "It's at your apartment," Olivia replied with an unreadable smile. "I promise, dear brother, you've never had a present like this before. Better hurry, or it might get offended and leave." She laughed as she turned to go. Andrew just shook his head. He grabbed his phone and gave his sister a warning. "This better not be some prank, Olivia. You know me. I'll find a way to pay you back." She just snorted and turned away. Andrew decided not to argue. He left his office, retrieved his SUV keys from security, and drove off. Halfway, his cell phone rang. Slowing down, he answered. It was Martin, one of his best friends, inviting him out for a drink. Andrew declined. He wasn't in the mood to drink. He suggested Martin call their other buddy, Scott, instead, which Martin agreed to before Andrew ended the call. He sped up again, heading to the apartment building where he occasionally stayed. Once in the basement parking, he hopped out of the SUV and went straight to his door, unlocking it. He scanned the large living space, no sign of any gift. His brow knotted in annoyance until a strange urge made him look toward his bedroom door. He opened it and froze in place. There on his bed lay a gorgeous woman fast asleep, her smooth legs on full display. He swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. Slowly, he approached the sleeping stranger. Though the air conditioning was cold, sweat broke out across his skin. Loosening his tie, Andrew couldn't stop his gaze from roaming across this mysterious, angelic vision. She shifted onto her back, making him swallow again and again. "No bra," he whispered, feeling his body respond. He realized exactly why Olivia had arranged this, given their mother suspected he wasn't attracted to women. That was never true. He was just uninterested in romance because of his focus on their family business and his legal practice. He was selective, not disinterested. He perched on the edge of the bed and gently reached for the blanket to cover up the mesmerizing figure, but the woman's arms unexpectedly curled around him. Fire roared through Andrew's veins as her soft, fragrant skin pressed against his. When she tugged him, their lips met. His eyes fluttered shut, and he returned her kiss, thoroughly undone by the soft warmth of her mouth. With one hand braced beside her face, Andrew used his other to fumble with his shirt buttons, never letting go of her lips. Her taste was sweeter than marshmallows. Under his touch, Alyssa could feel every jolt of pleasure, the strange but thrilling sensations surging through her body. A soft moan escaped her mouth, making Andrew realize she was new to all this. He paused long enough to whisper an apology, but she shook her head. "Go on," she murmured. He continued, and the night passed in waves of heat and unfamiliar pleasure. Night turned to evening's edge before Andrew finally released his grip on the woman who had refused to give him her name, no matter how many times he asked. As her exhausted eyes drifted shut, Andrew wrapped an arm around her, his heart already captured in that single intense encounter. She fell asleep in his embrace, but he stayed awake a while longer, grateful to whatever miracle had brought her. When Andrew's breathing finally slowed, Alyssa cautiously opened her eyes. She carefully removed his arm from her waist, letting out a shaky breath once she was certain he wouldn't wake. Tears burned in her eyes as pain radiated through her still throbbing body. "Lord, please let him stay asleep," she thought, gingerly pulling her leg free from his. Her body ached, a brutal reminder of the innocence she had just lost. She winced when she saw the shredded lingerie on the floor. Limping slightly, she went to his wardrobe and rummaged for something to wear, settling on a long-sleeved shirt and boxer shorts she found at random. She moved as fast as she could, ignoring the pain. She grabbed her bag and the clothes she'd discarded earlier, left the bedroom, and headed straight out of the building. A taxi conveniently pulled up. Without a second glance behind her, she slipped into the cab and pulled out her phone, texting Miss Olivia. "I'm leaving the job, Mom. Thank you for everything, but please respect my wish to bury this in the past. I'm going to start a new life." Miss Olivia replied immediately, promising not to divulge any information to her brother. Finally, Miss Olivia apologized. Alyssa could only offer words of thanks in return. When they passed the drugstore, she signaled the driver to stop. She bit back another wince, stepping out of the taxi and walked in to buy pain relievers and fever medication, then she went home. Andrew woke up the next morning, the side of the bed empty. He checked the bathroom, but the woman was nowhere to be found. Irritation welled up as he searched for his clothes, wanting to call his sister and demand answers. "Damn it, Olivia, please just tell me who she is," he growled into the phone. His older sister sighed. "I'm sorry, Andrew, but she made me promise I'd never reveal anything about her. She needed my help, so I helped. The deal's done, and she doesn't want any more trouble." Andrew's annoyance flared. "You really won't tell me, will you?" "Nope, dear brother. And now that I know you really do like women, I'm relieved. Our mother and I had all these crazy fears. Anyway, I'm glad to be proven wrong," Olivia teased, then hung up. Andrew slammed his phone down in frustration. It looked like he was on his own. He noticed something red out of the corner of his eye, the crimson stain left behind on his bedsheet. Memories rushed back, and he found himself smiling despite his anger. "You can run, my lady, but you can't hide forever," he thought, heading into the bathroom. 3 weeks passed before Margaret's condition finally improved. She was officially a cancer survivor, news that Alyssa celebrated wholeheartedly. Her mother stayed a few more days in the hospital to recover, then was discharged. "Thank you for never giving up on me, baby," Margaret said tearfully, hugging her daughter tightly. They stood outside the same old house they'd managed to rebuild. "Now that I'm strong enough, I can do my job as your mom again." "I'm just happy you're completely healed, Mom," Alyssa responded, smiling through her own tears. They hugged until the uncle Alyssa called Nathan arrived. He was a mason and had come with his 2 grown sons to help repair the old house. Decades ago, mother and daughter had left their little hometown for the city, but the house had fallen into disrepair. A single day wouldn't be enough for all the renovations, so Nathan decided to stay with them. "Won't your wife mind we'll be staying with you?" Margaret asked anxiously. She had never gotten along with Nathan's wife, who had a notoriously nasty attitude. "She's gone, sis," Nathan said sadly. "Ran off with an American she met online." Margaret and Alyssa's hearts went out to him. Nathan was a good man. Margaret hugged him, tears glistening in her eyes. Night was falling when they finally arrived at Nathan's cement house. "Maybe we should build our place with cement too, Mom," Alyssa suggested quietly as they finished supper, chicken soup Alyssa and Margaret had prepared. "That would be nice, sis, Margaret," Nathan chimed in. Margaret nodded. "Whatever you two think is best, I'm fine with it," she agreed. After dinner, Nathan retrieved a ripe jackfruit, cut it into chunks, and placed it on the table. The sweet smell made Alyssa's stomach churn. She jumped up and ran to the sink, throwing up everything she'd eaten. Alarmed, Margaret hurried after her. "What's wrong, sweetheart? Why are you throwing up?" her mother asked, rubbing Alyssa's back. Alyssa rinsed her mouth. "I don't know, Mom. My stomach flipped the second I smelled the jackfruit," she confessed nervously. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Do you have a boyfriend you haven't told me about?" she asked. "No, Mom," Alyssa blurted. Margaret sighed. "Then maybe I'm wrong," she said softly. "I only wondered if you might be pregnant. I was like that when I was carrying you. Any strong smell made me puke." Alyssa froze, anxiety clutching her. She remembered the night she'd spent with Andrew Johnson. What if she really was pregnant? Late that night, Alyssa lay in bed but couldn't sleep. In her mind, she imagined herself carrying Andrew's child, a man so far removed from her own world. Sighing, she stood up and stepped outside. She felt her mother's presence almost immediately. "Couldn't sleep?" Margaret asked gently, worry in her voice. "No," Alyssa murmured, looking at the ground. Then she exhaled, turning to face her mother. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you." Margaret's heart squeezed with dread. "Tell me," she urged, taking her daughter's hand. Slowly, voice trembling, Alyssa revealed everything: how she'd sold her virtue to pay for Margaret's life-saving surgery and how she might now be pregnant. Shocked, Margaret pressed a hand to her mouth. "Oh, Alyssa, why would you do that?" she whispered sadly. Seeing her daughter's tears, "I'm sorry, Mom," Alyssa choked out. "I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't let you die." Margaret's expression softened. "So you really might be pregnant?" she asked, her voice gentle. Alyssa swallowed hard. "I'm not sure. I haven't gotten my period." "Then we'll find out," Margaret said, squeezing her hand. "I want you to know I'm not angry at you, never. Let's take care of this grandchild of mine. Don't worry so much, stress will affect the baby." Margaret smiled through tears, hugging Alyssa close. "If you really are pregnant, who's the father?" Alyssa felt her face burn. "All I know is his name is Andrew Johnson," she admitted honestly. Margaret just nodded. "Is he handsome?" she teased, trying to lighten the moment. "Mom," Alyssa squeaked, pouting, which earned a laugh from her mother. "Come on, let's go inside. You need to rest. Pregnant women shouldn't be up late." Margaret ushered her back into the house, and Alyssa realized how lucky she was that her mother accepted her without anger or judgment. Days turned to weeks. The house renovations were completed, and next door, they constructed the laundry shop Margaret had always dreamed of owning. Alongside that, Alyssa had a small convenience store built. She couldn't work while pregnant, so she focused on these businesses for future income. During a checkup with an OBGYN, they confirmed that Alyssa was indeed expecting. She told no one except her mother, not even her friend Kelly or Olivia. Andrew Johnson was in a whole different world compared to Alyssa, and she saw no reason to inform him. By the time her 9 months ended, Alyssa gave birth to a baby boy. She named him Liam. He was adorable, though she noticed, "You didn't get a single feature from me. You look just like your dad." "You're going to be his little duplicate," she cooed, smiling down at her tiny son. She was resting at home with Liam when Margaret came in. "I haven't even held my grandson while he was awake." "The laundry shop's always busy," the older woman fussed. Alyssa grinned. "He says you're always busy, Grandma," she teased in a babyish voice, cradling Liam gently. Margaret's smile faded into concern. "Alyssa, are you really not going to tell your child's father? Liam deserves a complete family." Alyssa's smile slipped away. "Maybe I will someday," she lied gently, though in her heart she had no intention of doing so. Andrew and his family lived in a different world, and she couldn't see how she and her son would ever fit in there. Meanwhile, Andrew was running out of hope. Even after years of searching, there was no trace of the mystery woman who had stolen his heart. Angry and frustrated, he flung himself into work. He'd become a highly regarded attorney, famous for taking on pro bono cases for the poor and wrongfully accused. But personally, he flitted from one woman to another, never committing, never letting himself care. One afternoon, he finally gave in to an invitation from Martin to meet at an upscale bar in a private lounge. Andrew found his friends Martin and Scott, who had a woman clinging to his arm. Andrew greeted them, took a seat beside Martin, and downed the whiskey in front of him in one shot. Scott teased Martin about his impending marriage. "If that happened to me, bro, I wouldn't go for it. Once you're married, you'll be a prisoner. Trust me, you'll be miserable." Andrew nodded in agreement. "He's right, Martin. Your fiancée, Tiffany, does nothing but shop and party. I'd wait." "She can't even fry an egg," Andrew remarked, smirking. Martin sighed. "If I disobey my parents, I'll get cut off from everything. They'll take away even my, he motioned in frustration. "So I'm going through with it, and if I have to live off bread and water, so be it." Andrew and Scott just shook their heads. Tiffany, who was half drunk, suddenly giggled and whispered something in Scott's ear. Here, he gave them a knowing grin and stood, pulling Tiffany up with him. "I'm going to blow off some steam," Scott said. "I'll catch up with you guys later," he added with a wink. Andrew and Martin just laughed. "Bet they'll break up tomorrow once the buzz wears off," Martin joked, finishing his own drink. "True," Andrew agreed. "Scott never sticks around for long, but that's his life, man." Andrew decided he'd had enough and left the bar after a few more minutes. His phone kept buzzing with calls from the last woman he'd hooked up with, but he ignored them, eventually turning the phone off. When he reached the large house he'd bought, too big for just himself, but that was how he wanted it, he found his mother in the living room. He sighed, knowing she'd nag him again about reconciling with his sister. Andrew still refused to speak to Olivia because she wouldn't reveal the identity of the woman he'd met that night. "Thank goodness you're home," his mother said. "Will you please make time to visit your sister? She's in Los Angeles. She misses you. And how long are you planning to live by yourself? Can't you give me a grandchild?" Andrew let out a groan. "Not talk about that now, Mom. I'm tired. I want to sleep," he deflected, avoiding her gaze. His mother sighed. "Fine, but I'm sleeping here at your place," she said, crossing her arms. Andrew nodded wearily, leaned in to kiss her on the cheek, then headed upstairs to his room. He took a quick shower, then lay down, gazing up at the face he had painted on his ceiling, a portrait of the woman who had invaded his thoughts from that single night of passion. "You're so hard to find, my lady," he whispered into the darkness. "When will you return my heart, which you took with you that night?" He stared at her painted face for a long time, then finally fell asleep. "Mom, Liam's fever is so high," Margaret exclaimed early one morning, pressing a hand to the little boy's forehead. 3-year-old Liam was burning up. Alyssa jolted awake at her mother's worried voice and touched her son's forehead. The fever had returned just when she thought it was gone. "We have to take him to the hospital, Alyssa," Margaret insisted. "This fever just keeps coming back no matter how often you give him the medication the health center prescribed." Alyssa immediately scooped Liam into her arms. Margaret called for Jack, Nathan's son, who owned a small car he used for his deliveries. "You go on ahead to the hospital, baby," Margaret told Alyssa. "I'll pack everything we need in case Liam has to be admitted." Alyssa nodded, her voice tense. "Let's go, Jack," she said, climbing into the car. "Take us to the hospital quick." Tears flowed as fear and worry consumed her, especially with how hot his son's fever felt. Upon arriving at the hospital, he rushed inside, carrying Liam in his arms. Nurses met them at once and quickly attended to the child. "Your son is anemic, ma'am," the doctor informed Alyssa. "He needs a blood transfusion immediately." Alyssa's voice trembled with concern. "Take mine, Doc. Do whatever you have to, just make my son better." The doctor nodded and led Alyssa away to draw some blood to see if hers would be compatible. After the test, he returned with unfortunate news. "You're not a match, Mom. Your blood type is O positive while your son's is AB positive. Most likely, his father shares his blood type." "Where is your husband?" Alyssa's throat went tight. She hesitated. "He's back in Chicago, Doc." "You need to contact him right away," the doctor insisted. "Your child needs his father's blood. I have other patients to attend to, but please do it as soon as possible." Alyssa collapsed onto a bench, too weak to stand. Margaret arrived a short while later, and Alyssa relayed everything to her. Margaret's heart ached. "I know you're hesitant, child, but our Liam needs his father's blood. This isn't for you, it's for him. I'm begging you, please go. I can't bear anything happening to my grandson." Alyssa silently nodded, wiping her tears and standing up, her resolve strengthening. "Please stay with Liam, Mom. Don't leave him. I'm going to Chicago." Margaret managed a small smile. "Go on and be careful." Alyssa hurried to Liam's room, pressed a gentle kiss to his forehead, and whispered, "Mommy will be back soon, okay?" She cradled him for a moment, trying to stay calm, then forced herself to leave. Once at home, she called Kelly to explain the situation, apologizing for having kept her pregnancy and child a secret. Kelly was shocked but understood. Alyssa got a ride from her cousin Jake to the bus terminal bound for Chicago. She shut her eyes as the bus pulled away, praying, "Please, Lord, let everything turn out okay. Let there be no problems." It was past midnight when she arrived. Kelly greeted Alyssa with a tight hug. "I'm mad at you, girl. We've been best friends forever, yet you hid this from me," Kelly burst out once they pulled apart. "I'm so sorry, Kelly," Alyssa said, her eyes pleading. Kelly huffed. "Fine, I forgive you. So do we head straight to the Johnson Corporation?" "Yes," Alyssa replied, "but maybe we should eat first." Kelly flashed a grin. "You know me so well. I'm starving." They went to a small diner. While eating, Alyssa asked, "So how are you? How are your siblings?" "They're good. I've been paying for their schooling. Aunt Olivia has left me in charge of her flower shop ever since she and her husband moved to California. Honestly, she still talks about you sometimes, wondering how you've been." Alyssa offered a brief smile. "I'm glad everything's working out for you." Kelly's eyes narrowed affectionately. "What about you, though? How are you and your baby boy and Miss Margaret?" "We're all right," Alyssa said, not wanting to waste more time. "I have to hurry back for Liam." When they finally finished, they headed to the tall building that housed Johnson Corporation. Alyssa's heart pounded. "I'm so nervous," she admitted, "but I have to do this for my son." At the front desk, the guard confirmed that Andrew Johnson, CEO, was inside. Relief washed over Alyssa. She had just taken a step forward when she froze. "My lady," Andrew thought as the elevator doors slid open, revealing the very woman who'd haunted his dreams nightly. He had been on his way to the rooftop to help a friend, but the sight of Alyssa stopped him cold. Happiness surged through him, and he felt the words leave his lips. "It's you." Alyssa bit her lip. "Kelly," she whispered. "Please give us a moment." "Sure," Kelly mumbled, stepping away. Alyssa's heart hammered harder when Andrew strode nearer. She dropped her gaze, her palms clammy with nerves. Calm down, Alyssa, she told herself. You can do this. Andrew was now so close she saw his polished shoes. My lady, he said again. She could barely breathe. A tear slipped down her cheek. I have something to tell you, sir, she managed, her voice unsteady. Andrew's expression softened. I'm listening, my lady. Gently, he wiped her tear with his thumb. Neither cared that curious employees were openly watching. Alyssa spoke through her tears. The night we spent together, there was a consequence, a precious, adorable little boy. We have a son, sir, and he needs you right now. He has anemia, and he needs your blood. It felt like Andrew's whole world had turned upside down. So that was why he'd always felt drawn to children lately. He actually had a child of his own. Where is our son? He asked, tears welling in his own eyes for the first time. He's in Kansas, in my hometown, Alyssa said, voice quivering. No sooner had she spoken than Andrew grabbed her by the hand, hurrying her out of the building. He took the keys from the guard and sped off in his car, already calling his private pilot to ready his helicopter. Why tell me only now? Andrew demanded while driving, the hurt in his voice plain. Because I was ashamed, Alyssa admitted. We don't really know each other. We have no relationship that would make me think to tell you, and I was hired that night. I was paid. You should have told me anyway, Andrew said, regret tightening his chest. I could have helped raise and care for our son. His words left Alyssa speechless, guilt twisting inside her. At length, Andrew asked gently, May I know your name now? Alyssa, she replied quietly. That's a beautiful name, he said, smiling. A warm, unfamiliar thrill coursed through her. She silently scolded her heart for pounding so fast. They reached the helicopter pad, where Andrew guided Alyssa inside. He insisted on helping her, even placing headphones gently over her ears. Thank you, she whispered. Always welcome, my lady, he said, winking, which made her cheeks burn again. The pilot took off, giving them 2 hours in flight. Andrew stared unabashedly at Alyssa's angelic face, his heart thumping at the sight of her so near. Finally, her eyelids drooped. She felt his hand slip onto her shoulder, guiding her head to rest against his chest. Her mind told her to protest, but exhaustion pulled her into sleep. They landed after 2 hours, and Andrew helped her out. The pilot asked for permission to look around. Andrew handed him some money, then he and Alyssa caught a tricycle to the hospital. Andrew, 6 feet 2 inches, had a tough time fitting inside. Ow, he grunted as his head hit the roof on a bump in the road. Alyssa winced. She reached up, pressing a hand to the spot. Sorry, just a little farther. Andrew only nodded, forcing a smile. The ride felt endless, half an hour of cramped discomfort before they finally arrived. Alyssa jumped out, dashed inside, and found the doctor who had examined Liam. Andrew followed at her heels. Once tested, Andrew's blood was a match. Together, they waited outside Liam's room. After the transfusion, Nurse Vivian emerged. You can go in now, Alyssa, sir. The blood transfusion was completed successfully, and Liam's resting. Alyssa thanked her, then asked where her mother was. Vivian explained Margaret had just stepped out to buy lunch. Alyssa and Andrew entered the room where Liam lay asleep. Alyssa reached out to gently touch her little boy's cheek, grateful he felt cooler. Turning to Andrew, she flashed a small, relieved smile. Andrew, for his part, struggled to contain a flood of emotion when he saw Liam's tiny form. He felt a jolt, his son looked so much like him. Andrew's eyes filled with tears. Liam, my boy, Andrew murmured, voice cracking as he touched his son's small hand. Liam stirred, blinking awake. Mama, you're here, the child said, seeing Alyssa. Then his eyes shifted to Andrew. Who's that? Andrew glanced at Alyssa, who gave him a nod of permission. She stepped back, letting father and son have a moment. Liam regarded Andrew curiously. Why do we look the same? He asked, innocent eyes wide. Andrew smiled through tears. Because you came from me, son. Liam's eyes grew round. Andrew's heart squeezed. He lowered himself to embrace the child. I'm sorry it took me so long to come home, buddy. Work kept me away. Are you mad at me? Liam shook his head, tears forming. Andrew gently wiped them away. Daddy's not leaving you and Mommy again, okay? We'll be a family. Are you happy to meet me? Liam nodded eagerly, a soft smile lighting his face. I'm so happy, Daddy. They hugged, both crying freely. Alyssa watched her two loves, tears of her own slipping down her cheeks. She recalled how Liam often asked where his father was, and she'd always say he was away working hard for them. Now he finally had his dad by his side. Margaret peered through the door and stepped back again, letting father and son bond. She let Alyssa out to give them more time alone. The older woman smiled. He's very handsome, the father of my grandchild. No wonder Liam's such a good-looking boy. Alyssa blushed. Yes, he's definitely handsome. Margaret gently touched Alyssa's shoulder. Daughter, what do you plan to do now? Alyssa's gaze turned back to the door. I don't know, Mom, she admitted, but I do know I won't keep my son from his father. Margaret nodded, pleased. It's the right thing to do, you know. He has rights too. Alyssa lowered her head. Yes, Mom, I understand. 3 days passed before Liam was discharged. It also happened to be his birthday, so Margaret went home first to cook a simple celebration meal for her grandson. As she teased her future son-in-law, Andrew bought a cake the size of Liam himself, which delighted the child. The family joined in singing Happy Birthday. Everyone ate together, then Andrew spoke with Margaret and Uncle Nathan about courting Alyssa, a formality really, but one he wanted to do from the heart. They both gave their blessing. Later, Andrew asked Liam, Are you happy, buddy? So happy, Daddy, the boy chirped, playing with the toys Andrew had brought. Andrew ruffled Liam's hair. What if I invited you and Mommy to come live with me in Chicago? Would you like that? Yes, Mommy's friend from Chicago told me there are tall buildings and big malls, and there's a PlayStation, Liam said enthusiastically. Andrew chuckled. That's right. We can go tomorrow, along with Mommy. My mother will be thrilled when she meets you. Liam's eyes shone. He threw his small arms around Andrew's waist. Alyssa walked in, smiling at the heartwarming sight of her son hugging his father. Andrew lifted Liam onto the bed and rocked him gently to sleep. You know, Andrew said softly without turning around, I can be quite a husband too. Alyssa let out a small laugh. You're skipping ahead to marriage, and you just got here. Andrew turned to face her. Even if we're in our 60s one day, I'm still going to court you. Nothing's ever going to be rushed between us again. This time, I want everything done right. He reached for her hand. You should know that ever since that night, I couldn't forget you. I fell in love with you that same evening, Alyssa. You gave me such happiness. Alyssa's heart pounded as Andrew pressed her hand over his chest. Your name is all my heart's been calling, he said earnestly. I'm not forcing an answer out of you, Andrew continued. I just want you to know how I feel. I want you and our son to come with me to Chicago. We'll enroll him in school there. My mom and sister Olivia will be thrilled when they find out the silly scheme they cooked up years ago produced an angel. Alyssa wiped away fresh tears and nodded. Andrew's face split into a grin. Thank you, he breathed, pulling her into a tight embrace. Thank you so much, my lady. He leaned in, brushing his lips over hers so gently it made her knees weak. She let herself melt into the kiss. Suddenly, Margaret opened the door with a gasp. Startled, they broke apart, staring at the floor in embarrassment. If you two plan on giving me another grandchild, please find a more private spot, Margaret joked, shaking her head in playful reprimand. Just remember your little boy right here. Show some respect to us widows. Andrew and Alyssa stammered apologies. Margaret laughed softly, waving them off, then said good night. When she was gone, Alyssa felt her cheeks burn even more. I'll, just go to sleep now. You can stay in the other room. Andrew nodded, grinning. All right. Good night, my beautiful lady. He leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Sweet dreams, my lady, he added with a wink, then slipped out. Alyssa hid her flaming face in her hands. She glanced at Liam, who was sound asleep, and snuggled up beside him. Early the next morning, Alyssa came out of the room to see their belongings neatly packed and waiting. Andrew stood there with a thoughtful expression. Mom and I got your things together. She insisted she can't come with us right now because someone has to watch over the store and the laundry shop. She says she'll follow once we get married. Alyssa flushed. You and all this talk of marriage, she muttered, averting her eyes. He chuckled. I'll wake Liam so we can all have breakfast. Yes, please, she said, more to escape his gaze than out of actual hunger. She inhaled deeply, scolding her heart for racing like mad. She walked into Liam's room just as he stirred. Good morning, sweetheart, she whispered, kissing his forehead. Good morning, Mama. Where's Daddy? Liam asked, rubbing his eyes. He's outside. We were waiting for you so we can all eat together, she answered. Liam scrambled out of bed and rushed off. Alyssa followed, her heart warming at the sight of Andrew lifting their boy and planting a kiss on his brow. Andrew beamed at Alyssa, and she couldn't help but smile back. They ate with Margaret. Alyssa asked softly, Mom, you're really not coming? Margaret shook her head. No, honey. I can't just abandon our livelihood. Besides, our customers would riot if they had no one here to do their laundry, she joked lightly. I'll come later once Nathan can manage everything. Don't worry. Alyssa nodded in acceptance, though she felt sad leaving her mother. She understood this was reality. Andrew carried their luggage to a rented van. He refused to ride another rattly tricycle because of the bump on his head. From there, they caught Andrew's helicopter, and it was a long ride enough that Alyssa and Liam fell asleep again. Andrew's phone rang during the flight. His friend Scott was calling, but Andrew told him they'd talk later. They touched down in Chicago around 9 in the evening. Andrew, not wanting to let them out of his sight, brought Alyssa and Liam directly to his family's mansion. He wanted to surprise his mother. What on earth? Mrs. Johnson gasped, seeing Andrew enter with a sleeping child in his arms. Who is that little boy? Andrew smiled at her. He's your grandson, Mom, my son with Alyssa. His mother's eyes widened. Then, without hesitation, she hugged Alyssa. Oh, thank God. I thought my son would never give me a grandchild. Welcome to the family, dear. Alyssa's face heated. Thank you so much. Mom, Mrs. Johnson corrected with a gentle laugh. I want you to call me Mommy, dear, because you're part of our family now. Thank you, Mommy, Alyssa whispered. The older woman beamed, then turned to Andrew. Let me take him, she said, arms outstretched. At once, she recognized how strongly the boy resembled Andrew. There was no mistaking they were father and son. She kissed Liam's forehead and cradled him. What's his name? Alyssa spoke up softly. Liam, Mommy. What a wonderful name, Mrs. Johnson murmured, hugging him a little closer. I'll put him to bed. You two talk about your wedding, because I'm not letting you delay. That's where this is headed, right? She bustled off upstairs. Andrew sighed. Sorry if Mom is a bit too eager. That's all right, Alyssa said, offering a polite smile. Before Andrew could reply, his phone rang again. He glanced at the screen, seeing it was Scott, likely about some urgent matter. Andrew let the call go. He turned to Alyssa. I should probably help him. There's some issue with one of our friends that needs immediate attention. Would it be okay if I leave for a while? I promise I'll be quick. Alyssa felt warmth blossom in her chest at his thoughtfulness. You don't have to ask me for permission, she insisted. I do, Alyssa. You're the most important woman in my life now, mother of my child and he paused, someone I love. I want you to know where I'm going, what I'm doing. Her cheeks went pink. Well, okay. Just be careful. Andrew grinned, leaning in so she could rise up and plant a kiss on his cheek. Thank you, my lady, he said softly, kissing her temple, then he was gone, hurrying outside. He drove more carefully these days, no longer speeding recklessly because there were now people who'd be devastated if something happened to him. He decided to stop at a flower shop owned by a sister company, unaware that Kelly was managing the store, and picked out a bouquet of Alyssa's favorite tulips. The clerk seemed surprised to see him in person, but Andrew simply paid and left. When he got home, his mother greeted him with a playful smirk at the sight of the flowers. He smiled sheepishly and asked, "Where's Alyssa?" She directed him to the guest room. Andrew opened the door quietly, stepping onto the terrace where Alyssa stood gazing at the city lights. "My lady," he said. She turned, smiling at him. He handed her the bouquet. "Thank you," she whispered, lifting the tulips to her nose and inhaling their scent. They locked eyes, both glancing down at each other's lips, swallowing at the same time. "I love you, Alyssa," Andrew finally said, voice gentle as he leaned in. "And I love you too," she admitted. Their lips met. She shut her eyes, knees weak, clinging to his neck as he deepened the kiss. In one fluid motion, he scooped her up and carried her to the bed, where she noticed her own painted portrait on the ceiling. She started to say something, but Andrew kissed her again, so tenderly she felt as though she might float away. They whispered each other's names, recalling the night that bound them together. Later, she asked about the painting on the ceiling. He explained he had done it because he couldn't forget her face. She smiled, realizing how truly she had captured his heart from that single encounter. The next day, Andrew told her they would attend his friend Scott's wedding ceremony. He was a groomsman. Alyssa laughed at how their circles seemed to be getting married one after another. Andrew let their driver take the wheel so he could focus on Alyssa and Liam. They arrived at the grand church, and Andrew joined Scott, teasing him about his nerves. After the lengthy ceremony ended, Andrew hurried off. He had a plan for his own proposal that afternoon. He brought Alyssa to a house he recently purchased, the one he intended for their new home. His mother was already there, along with Margaret, who had traveled in secret, and even Kelly, whom Andrew had contacted. Alyssa stepped inside, confused by the darkness. Then the lights came on, revealing everyone in a circle around her. Andrew set Liam down, got on one knee, and presented a ring that his mother had helped select. Alyssa covered her mouth in shock, tears streaming as Andrew spoke. "Alyssa, my lady, my love, let's make that dream of a complete family come true. Be mine for the rest of our lives." Her answer came without hesitation. "Yes, Andrew, yes, I'd marry you anywhere. I love you." Everyone clapped through their tears as Andrew slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and kissed her. Liam, giggling, covered his eyes. Laughter and applause swelled around them. They spent a month preparing for the wedding. By then, Alyssa was also expecting their second child. Andrew became a devoted father and husband, letting his mother run the family business while he focused on his growing family. Years later, Andrew, Alyssa, and their 2 children could be found on a beach, watching the sunset. Their little boy, Liam, and their daughter dozed off in their parents' arms. Andrew and Alyssa leaned in for a gentle kiss. Their life as a married couple was filled with love and warmth, and Alyssa constantly thanked God for bringing her a man who was kind, devoted, loving, hard-working, and most of all, a responsible father and partner. The end. This was Dark Voices again, signing off.